Welcome back to another episode of the Canon on the Boomer Bus channel. I'm your host, Terry, and I gotta get right to it. Andor is so good. This last episode, episode 9, is so good. Like, it's amazing, but the whole show is amazing. Like, as I said before, I'm not breaking down each episode. But at episode 4, I had to talk about it because there was a turning point and I got so excited because I'm like, this is what I want. Not just from this show, but from Star Wars, from Marvel, from DC, from everything. We want this level of care and craft. And now we're at episode 9 and it not only like has stayed steady, as went up. It continues to go up. And I don't have words anymore for Andor. Everybody on the internet likes to use hyperbolic statements all the time. The GOAT, the God tier, the blah, 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 the elite, blah, all this crap. They just use it 0-100. It don't make sense. It doesn't mean anything. But when you are talking about Andor, this is top shelf, top tier, elite writing in the actual sense. Not just, oh, it's good or I like it. No, this is how you write. And shout out to all the writers. Shout out, is it Tony Gilroy and his brother, whoever? Look, bruh, Tony, hit me up. Like, this is fire, bro. This is absolutely amazing. And I don't care about these articles saying the social media numbers aren't the same as other shows. I don't care. Even if the viewing numbers aren't good, you got my view. That's all I can say. You have such a hard task. Like, an unbelievable task, darn near, with this show. And as I've said many times before, I write. Naturally, the writing is the thing that is the quickest thing I notice when I'm watching something. And honestly, it goes either way. It's either going to amplify my negativity for what I'm watching, for bad writing, or it's going to amplify the positivity. And this takes a show because the acting is amazing. The casting is so good in this show. But the writing itself just multiplies how good this show is. So again, you had an impossible task. I have to say impossible because number one, you're in the Star Wars box. And I mean that as in, obviously you're writing within the world that's already established, but you clearly have seen Lucasfilm likes to have a certain formula because they think that's the way to make money. And it has not gone well with their regime outside of really Mandalorian. So, but that's what they're going to do. They're going to put out the familiar stuff. They're going to put out the same action scenes. They're going to, just like Rise of Skywalker is the perfect example of what we're talking about. They're just going to say, hey, let's throw all this fan service things in so the fans can cheer, eat popcorn, go home, give us money. That's what they care about. So you already got that. So I can only imagine the struggle trying to pitch something that is so different, not only in the focus, but tonally different. So you got that hurdle. The next hurdle you got is that you're working with a prequel and you could so easily mess this up. Obi-Wan. Like, I talked about that show when it was out, even before it came out. We know what's going to happen to the main character. And so how do you write something that's going to be engaging, something that's going to be exciting and worth people's time when we already know what happens? And so on top of that, you got Andor, who is a relatively unknown character. I mean, the first appearance ever was in Rogue One and he died in it. And not to say people didn't like him, but that's not a big known character. You call it Andor, people don't, really know what that means. Most people, Star Wars fans do, but even Star Wars fans like me, I'm like, okay, Andor. Why do I want to watch a show about Andor? That was the question the whole entire time, from announcement to it coming out. And the first 3 episodes really focus on Andor, and very well made, well acted, but I felt exactly that same thing. I'm just like, okay, what are we really doing here? Like, why do we need to visit this with him when we know where this goes? And then episode 4 happens, and then I did my video and I talked about how it all switched. But again, this is really about focusing on the writing, because you have an ending already. You know where this character ends up. And you do have a world of Star Wars, but you have to really build out an entire narrative, an entire world around Andor within this confined space that you have to stay in, and make it entertaining and reason to invest in it. And they absolutely nailed it. Because again, like I said, with Obi-Wan, you could be tempted, and not just Obi-Wan, but any prequel. You could be tempted to go origin story. You could be tempted to just deep dive on Andor, or just have Andor doing things that don't contradict where he ends up, but it's just an excuse to see some cool stuff from Star Wars. You could have easily did that, and it could have easily fell flat. But no, they made the genius decision. Whoever it was made the genius decision to not only say this is going to be about multiple people, but this is really going to be about the Empire. And with that one decision, you have this freedom of narrative storytelling, where Andor is on the front of it with his name, and Andor is in these episodes, but we're really telling the story about what's happening around him and the trickle down effect that has happened because of something he was a part of. And it wasn't just Andor, because Aldhani heist was going to happen if Andor wasn't there. If Andor never killed those guards, that still would have happened. Like, we don't know when Luthen would have tried to recruit Andor. We don't know if Andor would have went if there was no reason for him to go. So all that was going to happen, and that was going to trickle down to the Empire squeezing down anyway. But Andor finds him, due to his own choices, he finds himself wrapped up in that, and how it's now affecting him. And I love that, because it's not even like I said, oh, Andor killed these guards and this is why everything happened. It's not. All of this stuff that we're seeing right now is going to happen anyway. So we like that, because again, his name is on the show, but the central decisions, the central through line is not just really Andor, it's the Empire. And so we see from a different side what the Empire can do, and they lean into it so well. So far, I've not seen any discernible plot holes, none that stick out to me. The dialogue obviously is sharp, but within the dialogue, you can see that they thought everybody's decisions through. Now, what do I talk about every time I review something when we're talking about writing? When you write an action or reaction, you need to understand why. And a lot of times we see movies and TV shows where they clearly didn't think about it. They just wanted this cool action to happen or this cool reaction to happen, but they don't really have a logic behind it. But okay, so what? They and Andor have thought about these things, and they reveal it so well. Like, yes, the writing is elite, but the whole direction is elite too. I tell you the moment in this episode where I knew that not only this episode, but this show was on a different level. This was on a top tier content making level. When they gave her the little headset to play whatever the noise is that they use to torture people. And I kept saying, like, the dialogue was so good. He built it up. It was an excellent scene. But as soon as he pulls it out, I kept saying, don't play the sound. Don't play the sound. Don't play the sound. And I'm saying this, but in my mind, I'm like, they're going to play the sound. You know, they propped it up in this scene. They're going to show the sound. But I kept saying, don't show the sound or play the sound, because that is what Oscar level, that's what top tier writing and what top tier movies and TVs do. They show you more than they have to tell you. They're much more subtle. I mean, even if the content is good, when you just have to spit it out in people's face, it's never going to be as effective. And so when you can write it in a way, when you can act it in a way where it's subtle, and you get the emotion instead of just the, instructions, you're going to have a bigger reaction. And the fact that they understood to do that, to leave it mute and just continue to watch the actor emote, to let the actor give you all the information you need through emotion and their reaction, that's how I knew they understood how to tell a story in an elite way. And then we see the exact same thing, because you watch this episode over, it's a different experience. The first time you watch it, we know Andy Serkis, we know that he's revved up because he's a supervisor and he wants to get out. But throughout this episode, the breadcrumbs are laid to show you not only what Andor's fear is, but to show you Andy Serkis's biggest fear as well. And that comes through the old man who ends up dying. And also, so through that, we know Andor's like hatching a plan with other people. We know the old man is old. I mean, he's almost out, but he's old, and, he kind of cracked. But, and you like, okay, yes, we kind of saw that coming. We kind of felt it. But then they doubled down with the news of what actually happened on ground 2. And then you go back when you're watching it and you see the lights go out, and it was like, why did they cut the power for that? And you realize the power glitch because they used so much energy to kill everybody on that floor. So anyway, they doubled down the message of we have to escape. They doubled down the message of the Empire is not keeping order. They're dominating and they're taking over. We double down the message that we're not getting out of here. And so we see the old man is like, and throughout the time he's doing bad, we're just like, man, Andor already doesn't want to be here. And I think part of Andy Serkis is like, that could be me. That's why I want to get out of here. And he dies, and it's emotional. It hits us. But then, boom, because we haven't talked about floor 2 in a while. Like, it's been whispers, but we weren't thinking about it. We was more worried about the old man. And then, boom, they hit us with, they fried floor 2 because someone from floor 4 was released and put on floor 2. And that completely breaks the veil that they're hiding behind. This idea that you are working towards something. We are taking care of you. We'll be rough, but only if you step out of line. You are working towards something to get you out of here. And if you die along the way, hey, that's not our fault. If you go crazy along the way, that's not our fault. You just got to do your sentence. And once that illusion is broken, then that's where the rebellion comes. And Luthen said it last episode. Oppression breeds rebellion. And the Empire in a lot of different areas are trying to work behind the disguise of we're not oppressing you. We're protecting you. And the rich people eat that up easily. The poor people, most of them are like, BS, we see you here every day occupying, oppressing. But there's some people, some mild-mannered citizens that are like, no, the Empire's doing, good things for us. And so that is how it works. I mean, obviously, George Lucas has said he was inspired by the Nazis, World War II. Obviously, a lot of people compare it to that, but really it is not just a Nazi thing. It's any type of totalitarian, dictatorship, any type of oppressive organization or power structure. This is how it happens. And they have to continue to keep people under this illusion that either they're getting some benefit out of this or that it's not as bad as it actually is, because they know once that illusion is broken, then that's when things can pop off, because they're always going to be stronger in numbers of the people. They need masses and masses and masses of people to run this giant empire. And so those people combined are always going to be more than the oppressors. But they use their weapons, and one of their weapons is illusion. And you just see it without anyone having to say anything. You see the illusion break, and you see Andy Serkis go to the other side, and he says one of the most famous lines in Star Wars now, never more than 12. Oh my God. Goosebumps. Absolutely goosebumps. But it's just, it's so good. It's so, there's so much I could talk about in this episode. From the boy Serial, I know I call him Serial, and like we knew he was unhinged, but a lot of people was like, where's he going? Where's he going with this? No, he's just going to continue to be an unhinged, crazy dude to everybody. The Empire, the ISB sees him that way. His former co-workers, Andor, everybody sees him as just this unhinged, crazy dude. And you could tell him and Deidre have this, kindred spirit of wanting to do whatever it takes to kind of get justice. Now we don't really know her motivation, to be honest, to be quite honest, which is why you never know what she's going to do. She might just want to secede. That might just be her ego, because it doesn't seem like she really cares about the people and safety. It seems like she just wants the credit. And so she's not as unhinged as Serial, but Serial is really addicted to justice for whatever reason, and he is straight simping for Deidre. And they write it so well. It was not overly sexualized. It was not overly creepy. It was not overly, mustache twirling two evil people. It wasn't even overly psychotic, because she has a different layer than him. And so when they play off each other, it's not like looking in the mirror. It is, slightly different, and it's tension. That's what it is. It's such great tension that just comes through the acting and the choice of the dialogue too. So there was something else I was thinking of. Obviously, you had the stuff with Mon Mothma end up being cousins with, Val, whatever her name is. I don't really care about her. She's such a, not Mon, but Val, she's such a poser. Like, you can see, like, she like they said, she's a spoiled rich girl that ran away. Not pretending, but kind of trying to be a part of something else. And obviously, she's calls for good, but at the same time, she's out here repeating lines that Cinta, who is really from the struggle, is using and talking to other people like, she came up with it, or that she's actually like more wise than she is. She's just a poser. She's a what do you call it? Not assimilation, appropriation. She's just appropriating. But whatever her reasons, she's in the struggle, so okay. And the whole thing with Mon Mothma and her daughter and her husband, I said from the beginning, I think they suspect her of an affair and not really anything else. But anyway, she now has to go kind of against her code so she can do what she has to do to get this rebellion to continue to move. And we see her in the Senate where they just don't care about what she's saying. It's just, it's so good. It's so good. And at the end of the day, it's just elite writing, because you were able to take something that had its challenges, but also is familiar, something that we know. We know where the empire ends up and all that. And you look at it from an unexplored angle and you build it out in an excellent way. And that's what I expected from Mandalorian. That's what I expected from Boba Fett. Didn't get it from either of those. It was the same beats but this actually builds the world in a different way that Star Wars has ever done. And again, it's not just Star Wars, it's not just Andor, it's not just the tone, it's the writing. To do that with any property is just a hard task, and I just got to commend them. This has been amazing. Anyway, that's it for me. Go down to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. And remember, if you heard it, here's official canon.